Hi everyone, Christoph here, and you are watching Villian's Garage. If you like my videos, please subscribe. If you don't like my videos, also just click subscribe. So this is the last episode on the MV Agusta F4R. I am going to chat to Brett from Bart Cycles to get his view on the MV Agusta brand, and I'm also going to take you along for a ride on the bike after the interview. So Brett makes amazing bike videos. One day my videos will look as good as his. So I'm going to put a link in the description for his channel. Go and check it out. Give him a like. You don't need to subscribe. He's got a lot of subscribers, so he doesn't need that. But go check him out. Amazing videos about motorbikes. So go check him out. After that, as I said, we're going to take a ride on the MV Agusta. But first, let's chat to Brett and see what he's got to say.
So I have Brett from Bart Cycles with me today, all the way from the US. Hi, Brett. Welcome to Villian's Garage. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. You did me a big favor and helped me out with one of my videos, and that video is done really well
I
because of
saw
you.
that. Yeah, I saw that. Cool. No problem. So let's talk about bikes a little. When you speak to someone about motorcycles, they usually almost default to the four big ones from the East. The Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, and Yamaha.
Mhm.
When you talk to them about the US, they usually call out Harley Davidson.
Mhm.
And lately, when you do German, it's BMW. So when you talk to them about Italian motorcycles, they always jump to Ducati.
Mhm.
And MV Agusta is not really mentioned or comes up in a conversation. So I was wondering, what do you know about them? I also don't know anything about them. I would love to know what the MV in MV Agusta stands for. So if you can
Yeah.
maybe give me some insight on that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, interestingly enough, I was just talking to a guy who had just bought a GSXR 750, and I mentioned MV Agusta to him. I was saying, "Oh, I like MV Agustas," and he had no idea what that was. And that, to me, is like the epitome of a good Italian company. The regular people shouldn't know about it. It should be exclusive. And in that sense, I think MV Agusta is more Italian in many ways than Ducati, which might frustrate people, but Ducati has become much more of a mainstream, high production, whatever company. But so the MV, originally it was just Agusta. I think it was Agusta Aeronautics. We don't need to go over the whole history, but started out as an aviation company, building helicopters and airplanes and things like that, which they continued to do, I believe, even after they started making motorcycles. The MV was added, I believe, in the mid 40s when the company officially released their first motorcycle. And pretty basic. MV in Italian just basically stood for like mechanic. I think it was like mechanismo or something like that. But it essentially stood for like mechanic. And then I have it written down what the V stood for. It's Mechanica Vergara. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And Vergara was just the name of the location in Varese or wherever it is. Uh, so basically, MV Agusta went from being Agusta to Mechanic Agusta, you know.
Yes.
So now we're a shop that it's funny because it doesn't even mean like motorcycle or
Mm.
anything like that.
Well, I'm
But
I'm
yeah.
glad it's short like that, so we don't have to pronounce those names every time we
Oh
speak
yeah,
about it.
for sure. And I mean, they're like essentially, you know, I can give a little just brief history of the company if you want, or
Yeah,
or
please do. Yeah, please do.
it's helpful. I think it's a little bit helpful to understand. You don't need to understand every single detail about everything that they are, but the company started out like a lot of startups at that time, a lot of Italian startups, any startups, even the Japanese startups in the 50s. Um, they were all making small utilitarian, often two-stroke motorcycles. And that just didn't work for MV Agusta pretty early on. Pretty early on, they switched to making race bikes, which became a huge part of their identity. Though MV Agusta now is not the race company that it was throughout the 60s and 70s. This is one of the most legendary, motorcycle racing companies of all time. More Grand Prix wins, more Grand Prix titles, I believe, than any other company, even though they haven't raced in forever in MotoGP. And I believe they won like 15 years in a row. They won the constructor or whatever it's called championship, where
Oh, wow.
all the classes were just kind of combined. And it's just like the constructors is like, who's the best company? Who's performing the best? And MV Agusta just dominated the 60s. People like Giacomo Agostini, Mike Halewood, Phil Reed, I believe his name is, massive, successful, some of the best racers ever raced MV Agustas. So there's that element of making performance-oriented motorcycles, which really applies to what they would become with the F4, which is what we're obviously talking about. And then also, they were a company that made beautiful machines. All MV Agustas throughout all of history, basically, are beautiful.
Yes.
And fragile machines, which sounds terrible, but like they did have a foray into off-roading at one point, and you can't take their bikes off-road, in history. And I would even say today, I wouldn't take, although they do have an adventure bike kind of now. But sort of, once you got them on a track and, you maybe rebuilt the whole thing after the race, they were for many years, the fastest motorcycles in the world. And that identity of making beautiful, exotic, powerful, technologically advanced motorcycles, that still is there today. And I think that's really cool. They're one of the few companies that their identity has really stayed the same for forever, which is pretty awesome. So
great. You spoke about the F4, and that's actually what I want you to pick your brain on a little. So you've seen my videos that I've done on the one that I did a little cleanup on. Still, I don't know much about it. So what do you know about the F4? Where does that come from? What is it exactly? What was the target market? What's the history on that then?
Yeah. So I personally don't know a ton about the later F4s. I know a fair amount about the early F4s. But the F4 was essentially the bike that they relaunched the company with. MV Agusta died in the 70s. Their last motorcycle was, I believe, their last production motorcycle was a 4-cylinder 750cc exotic, unbelievably expensive sport bike. I think that F, or it wasn't called the F4, but that 750 was like $6 or $7 grand in the mid 70s. Which is just crazy when you think about some of the other very expensive motorcycles. Like a big Harley was under $2 grand, I'm pretty sure.
So
that's
it's
like
real expensive.
It's like a $40,000 motorcycle today or more. But people bought them. But anyways, last motorcycle, and then they died in the 70s, just like a lot of other European and British companies, due to the Japanese competition, I would say, though there's probably more to it than that. And then MV Agusta was relaunched by the Castiglione family, wealthy businessmen in Italy, who at the time, I believe they owned Cagiva, and Cagiva owned Ducati and MV Agusta. Ducati was, continuing to do well, but they decided to relaunch the MV Agusta brand in the late 90s. And the F4 was the bike that they relaunched with, to resounding praise. It was considered one of the most beautiful motorcycles of all time. The F4, early F4s, but then onward, even when the design was changed a bit.
They are very beautiful motorcycles. I mean,
beautiful,
they just look gorgeous.
Oh yeah, and weirdly timeless. If you look at those original F4s from the late 90s, especially through like 08, 07, whenever it was, they didn't change a whole lot, even when it bumped up to 1,000 cc's. And if you look at a GSXR, interestingly enough, they definitely copied the F4. In 98, 99, when the F4 was launched, if you look at a Gixxer from that time, it looks nothing like what it became. And it's like so obvious that switched to the Cyclops headlight. It's definitely more of a
Absolutely.
copy.
Mm.
And a lot of people will see an F4 and think, oh, it just looks like a Gixxer, but they've got that backwards.
The wrong way around.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of crazy stuff. But I mean, it's cool to read, early reports on the first F4, the 750. Just a cool time when MV Agusta relaunched. People were really excited about it. Wasn't the greatest performing motorcycle. It weighed more than a GSXR 750. It didn't produce any more horsepower. It would not outperform a Gixxer 750 on a track, but it had that emozione, is what the Italians call it. There was something there. Part of the reason is that Tamburini, Massimo Tamburini, he took like 7 years to design it. Isn't that crazy? He just
Absolutely
spent so much time just like going over this clay mold until it was just perfect. And I mean, it shows, it's timeless. So,
and as a bonus, you can work every weekend on it after
yeah,
you've raced
exactly.
it.
Exactly. Just crazy. These people are crazy. I mean, seriously, people who worked with Tamburini, like Pierre Terblanche, who worked with him for a long time, said like, this guy's crazy. He's just. It's funny. He well, obviously this isn't funny, but he died, and they still have no problem sort of talking crap about him because he was just such a madman when it came
Wackadoodle.
to. Yeah, exactly. But that's what creates
That's
great
what
things
makes
a lot
it.
of times.
Mhm.
Exactly. And so anyways, the two main generations of the F4 are the F4 750, which kind of went away in, I think, like 2003. And then you have the F4 1000, which I believe was 04. But then within the F4 1000, you kind of have two generations, which is the Tamburini still, he was still designing for MV Agusta. And so he designed the F4 1000, I believe, in partnership with Adrian Morton, who is also a longtime designer there. And then Adrian Morton took over as the lead designer, designed lots of incredible motorcycles. Everything you see from MV Agusta now basically was designed by Adrian Morton, from the Super Veloce to the Dragster to the Rush and all these crazy looking motorcycles. But then Adrian Morton took over the design of the F4. I'm not sure what year it was. And the one that you have is an Adrian Morton designed F4 made to look like the original F4. It's different though. It's more angular. It's a little more updated. It's more aggressive looking, So one of the things that's cool about the F4 is, for all of its history, is that in the late 90s, when the 750 F4 came out, all of the major companies had basically moved to inline fours. Inline fours have been sort of known for being soulless in many ways. They're almost too smooth. They're, at a time
everyone
when Ducati
uses them.
Exactly. Yeah. They all sound the same basically, and they're just smooth, but it's basically the fastest way to get a motorcycle around a track is to do an inline four. Although obviously we see lots of other iterations today that work. But at a time when people were kind of getting sick of inline fours and moving to Ducatis and riding twins and finding, more fun on those bikes, and triples too, with like the Daytona, MV Agusta, this Italian company, decided not to make a twin like Ducati or to use a different platform. They decided to make an inline four, but what they did was make an inline four that is loud and raw and doesn't really feel or sound like an inline four.
Yeah, like all the others.
Yeah, exactly. It's like an Italian inline four, which is pretty cool.
In your videos, you spoke a lot about MV Agusta. To me, it sounds like you really love them. So what is it that makes you like them so much?
I have, for some reason, just found classic bikes really fun. And I think that I like MV Agusta because it seems like one of the few modern motorcycle companies that does things in a very classic way. New MV Agustas, I don't know, they seem to be built in the same spirit that like my old Triumph was. They design these motorcycles with another level of care. Like I said, they don't care about spending 7 years. That might not be the case today for the company, but the kind of company that will spend years designing a motorcycle. Look at the Super Veloce. I mean, it looks nothing like anything else. You can just tell that this is a motorcycle born out of passion. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's
Yes.
not this. So many companies, it's just like it's bean counting. It's just like I said, figuring out how to even sport bikes. It's like figuring out how to make a bike that goes around a track fast enough, and it just is boring, But a motorcycle that comes from a company where also they still have each motorcycle basically assembled by one person, and that person signs the motorcycle. I believe it's like inside the clutch cover somewhere. So you get your motorcycle and it's got like an initial. That's the kind of stuff old motorcycle companies did a long time ago. And yeah, I don't know. I think if I were to buy a new motorcycle, if I were to drop a good chunk of money on a new motorcycle, it would be an MV Agusta hands down, because I just feel like you're getting something that is also potentially could hold its value. I mean, if you keep it long enough, I'd be shocked if 40 years from now, a Super Veloce hasn't been, going up in value at a certain point. Whereas most other motorcycles are so mass produced and so uninteresting.
They just drop in value anyway.
They just drop in value. Exactly. So there's definitely other companies that do that. It just seems like, to me, like I said earlier, like Ducati is awesome. And in many ways they are like the Ferrari of motorcycle companies. But to me, I think the real like Italian experience would be to get an MV Agusta personally.
Do you think that the whole soul part of bikes or any vehicle, cars as well, do you think unreliability adds to that soul that you like? Because let's face it, old classic bikes, they're not that reliable. You have to work on it. You have to keep your finger on it. To me it feels like when we speak about Italian bikes, the unreliability part of it is what adds to that soul, that special kind of feeling. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that a motorcycle that is built, hand designed, hand built, is gonna come with that a little more,
Absolutely,
and
yes.
There's no getting around that. When people talk about motorcycles with soul, yeah, a lot of times those come down to things like my old Triumph. It misses gears all the time. That's a small part of what makes it have soul, I think, though. If I were to ride a new bike and it was missing gears and had lots of false neutrals, I would just be like, this is just a bad gearbox. But for me,
yes.
it's the sound. It's the fact that like the exhaust is not so choked out by a catalytic converter that like I hear really what the engine is making. I actually am hearing the sound the engine is making. I don't have to put another pipe on to do that. When I hit the throttle, because it's like a wire going directly to like a slide in a carburetor, when I like pull the throttle, I'm feeling the air and gas. Like I'm making that happen versus a computer telling it to. And yeah, I think MV Agusta just has some of those things still. Even as a modern company, they make motorcycles that feel raw in that way. I don't know.
Great stuff. So yeah, that's actually what I wanted to chat to you about. I really appreciate your time, that you would make time for a teeny weeny little channel like mine. I really appreciate it. Yeah, all the best on your side, and we'll chat again soon. Thanks for your time on this.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
No problem. Take care, Brett.
All right. See you, man.
Okay. See you. Bye.
Bye.
I always enjoy chatting to Brett. As you can see, he's such a cool guy. It's lovely to chat to him. So yeah, that's some history on the MV brand and the F4R in general, or the F4 in general. So let's take it for a ride. I did not try to go as fast as possible. I wanted to give you a feeling of how it sounds and what it feels like just to ride it. Afterwards, I'm going to give you my thoughts on the bike, the pros and the cons of it. There are quite a few of them, so yeah, let's take it for a ride first, and after that we'll talk about how it feels. Okay, I hope you enjoy it. Let's go. let me tell you, that is one quick bike. There's no denying that. Let's talk a little about what I think about the bike in general. So first things first, there's no denying that that thing is extremely powerful and fast. It just feels, it scares me a little. So it's very fast. I would say that's a pro. So let's go with the pros first. It's extremely fast. It sounds different than other bikes, other inline fours that I've ridden. There's another tone to it. I hope you heard it in the video, but it just sounds different than any other inline four that I've ridden. It looks great. The design is timeless. I just love the looks of the bike. Handling is brilliant. Those big Brembo brakes are brilliant. Lots of stopping power. So yeah, that's the pros for me. Let's go to the cons, and I hope the MV Agusta guys don't slay me over this. The bike feels a little cramped. I'm not a big guy. I'm 178, but I am fat. So maybe that's the problem, but it feels a little cramped for me. I get tired pretty quickly on it. It's got a very aggressive track style to it. So yeah, that's that. The throttle. This bike defaults to the sports mode when you switch it on. I don't know if everyone is the same, but in sports mode the throttle is very on-off when you're in a corner. I'm almost too careful to open the throttle because it just jerks when it comes on. So it's like I didn't try the other modes. Maybe it dulls it there a bit, but definitely a snappy on-off kind of throttle feel that with such a powerful bike makes me even more scared to ride it. Last thing, well, this is a pro and a con, is the power band, how it delivers the power. To me, it feels like it's very numb low down, and as soon as it picks up in power, there's like kind of a flat spot. I don't know. I feel like it's around 8 to 9,000 RPM thereabout. There's a flat spot, and after that, all hell breaks loose. I mean, it feels like a turbo coming on. It's got a tremendous top end rush when you ride it. I don't know how that will translate to the track, if you'll be able to control that, say, mid-corner. But still exhilarating to feel that power coming on so suddenly. So that's my thoughts on the bike. I really had fun with it. I enjoyed the few scares that I got on it. So yeah, nice experience. So thanks again to Brett for the chat, and thanks to you for watching my videos. As I said, please subscribe if you like them, and also like this video. It helps a lot. Okay, thanks then. We'll chat again on the next episode, where I will be reviewing this fun guy. If you think you know what it is, comment down below. If not, no worries, you'll see it in my next episode. Okay, thanks for watching. Take care, guys. Cheers. Bye-bye.